Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where last episode we designed our lunar gateway here, although I'm realizing that these are supposed to be, I believe, perpendicular to the solar panels here. Is that correct? Yes, that is correct. They should be at a different angle. So we should move either the solar panels or these docking ports, and the question is, which do we want to move? I think I'm just going to move the solar panels here. It's probably a little bit simpler because of the access hatch for the Gigantors up there. I want to snap, thank you, and we'll place that right there. Okay, I think we're ready to launch our lunar gateway here, or at least our initial stage of the lunar gateway. So let's go ahead and put this out on the pad. There are no Kerbals inside of it, and we'll see how this goes. If there's significant wiggling early on in the flight, we can revert this. Otherwise, this is the real flight. We'll see what happens. I'm a little concerned about the thrust to weight on the first stage. We'll see how that goes, I guess. That's going to be potentially a little dicey. We know it didn't get going all that fast in our previous test flight. So that's, you know, going to be a little grim potentially. We don't want to use Mech Jeb here. Okay, I'm just noting how it's sitting on the pad right now. There's a little bit of swaying. No doubt about that. But let's align it to Kilrot, and let's lift this thing off and see what happens. We've got no fairing on it, and it's a pretty tall boy, that's for sure. I'm a little bit concerned about this thrust weight, but that doesn't feel that bad, actually. But these are not going to be going very fast. Let's go. This feels like a lot of bending. Let's see what happens if we start a gravity turn, but I'm going to wait until we're a little bit more going here. You can see over here, there's definitely a lot of oscillation going on. This is probably going to be a reversion, but I want to try to identify where the oscillation is occurring. I don't have a good finger on that right now. I don't think it's this joint. I think it might be this joint. Somewhere in here. Okay, that's a remote guidance unit there. Yeah, there's probably some problems here. We're definitely moving fairly slowly, it feels like. But we're punching up through the atmosphere nicely. Apoapsis is currently at about 12K. I'm not sure exactly what's going on with this joint. There's some problems here. For sure. Let's see what happens if we gravity turn. Woof. Okay, yep, we got to do something about that. That's a problem. Okay, let's revert that back to the vehicle assembly. That joint definitely has issues, and I think I know what the issues are. So there is a remote guidance unit here that maybe shouldn't be there. The remote guidance unit should probably be moved somewhere up here. Now, there's also a spare decoupler here that almost certainly should not be here. So I'm going to detach this. Let's get rid of this decoupler. Let's take out the remote guidance unit. Let's put this in here so that there is just a decoupler there. And then I'm going to put the remote guidance unit here instead. So that'll save us a little bit of weight, strengthening up this joint, hopefully, and putting the remote guidance unit where it's supposed to be. So that'll be good. We'll save that and try this again. If there's significant bending issues still, then we'll revert it back and make some changes. But other than that, that seemed mostly reasonable, if slightly underpowered. But I think we'll be okay. We've got a lot of power in the center core, if not necessarily in the side cores. The side cores are going to be detaching what feels to be very early in flight, and that's okay. So we're going to put this on Kilrot, throttle up, and we are out of here again. I want to see how this feels. It feels about the same, doesn't it? Almost like the issue is further down. Like it's down here. A strut going up here might solve it. At least in these early stages. That's a thought. We could definitely do that. For the time being, I want to see how much burn time we have left, of course. And I also want to get started on a gravity turn before we make that determination. We know that this was absolutely an issue in the last flight. This is feeling more stable now. So if we don't need a strut from here to here, then great. I would prefer to not have one. So we're at about a 10-kilometer apoapsis at this point. I'm going to let this go up to about 20. So 12, 13, 14, 15. We're definitely getting some good vertical speed, but we have very little horizontal speed at this point right now. And horizontal is what we really need. So we're at about 20. Let's begin a turn over here. Okay, that's noted. We are struggling to turn. It's also reasonably fine. Okay, we're just trying to hold attitude here. I'm letting this burn for an additional little bit of time. We're going to leave 5 seconds of burn time left. 6 and 5. Cutting engine. Ooh. Okay, so that impact wasn't great. No doubt about that. One of those is definitely not going to be making it back. Okay. We're going to need to take this over to horizontal velocity up. But that impact was certainly not great, that's for sure. We need as much horizontal speed as we can. As we can see, our apoapsis height is already up in space, so that's looking good. Now, as far as recovering this goes, we'll see how that goes. That was a lot of debris. The primary reason that ended up happening was because of the side our boosters were attached to. We can change that side if we were to do this flight again in the future. But I don't think we have any other Falcon Heavy flights scheduled, so if we don't have any others scheduled, there's no point in fixing it at this time. And we can just do a double core recovery instead of a triple core recovery, and that will make things simpler for us, at least for right now. So we're continuing to push our way through here, and we're utilizing this core to get as much horizontal speed as we can. We're definitely seeing an oscillation pick up with a bend right around here. That oscillation is not great. Okay, I didn't expect to see an oscillation at this time. This is probably indicating that we're over-gimbaled here. But for the moment, I think it's reasonably okay. We're seeing this apoapsis height going fine. How are we doing on this probe here? So that's beginning to go down. Okay, noted. We're seeing this time to apoapsis starting to go up quite a lot, and we're just going to target this at 150 and call that good. 107, 108, 109, 110, 115, 120, 125, 130, 135, 140, and 150. Okay, we're going to call that good. Let's extend out our Gigantors here. And put this in kill rot. Okay, so that seems good. Now we want to hop over to the Lunar Gateway probe. Now, only one of these is going to survive. The other one, well, we might be able to recover some parts of it, I suppose. There's going to be some problems, no doubt about it. So we're in a good attitude here. Let's deploy our air brakes and put this at surface velocity minus. Well, it's an okay attitude anyway. Okay, there are no nearby objects to focus. So there is another Lunar Gateway probe. That guy is over here. We can't switch while in atmosphere. Okay. Yeah. And we would be able to switch over, I believe, if there was a nearby object, but there is not. So this is what we're going to have to do. Okay, so we are accelerating up here. We're going to have these chutes firing. The plan was for these to be close enough to switch to, but we might not ever be able to recover the second one anyway. So we're definitely seeing our speed increase here. We're heading down through the atmosphere. And we're just working on holding this attitude with our air brakes as best we can. Cool. I'm hoping to see us start to decelerate soon. We might have to do a little bit of a deceleration burn. We've got 7 seconds of burn time left here, which is 2 seconds more than I expected to have. Okay. I kind of like it. We are decelerating at this time. Okay. Let's get these drogues out. There we go. Nice deceleration here. Why do we have 5 drogues? I feel like we were supposed to have 4. Okay. That's a little awkward. I guess it's fine. Not a problem, necessarily. So this guy, of course, splashes down hard and is destroyed. Now, after that bad separation, that's not surprising. That separation can definitely be fixed if we need to. I'm going to get our mains out, and we'll see what kind of speed this brings us to. The drogues are deploying now. The mains are deploying now. So what's this going to put us at? Still decelerating. A default drop of about 16 meters per second? That's really manageable. We don't need very much fuel at all to land like this. Okay, I like it. Of course, the economic considerations in KSP and real life are somewhat different. There's no doubt about that. How are we doing on battery charge? It's fine. No problem whatsoever there. So we can see that we're going to need to slow down a little bit more soon, but this is looking really, really solid. This is a really easy recovery at this point, no doubt about that. So if we had both of them, that would be the ideal, right? But we just splash it down like that. And it's actually just holding attitude here. So we'll just recover it without it tipping over. Sounds good. We could also replace the nose cone with a chute up on the nose cone. That is a theoretical option. But like I said, I'm not planning on doing, I think, any additional Falcon Heavy launches. So this one being a partial success is good enough because we're not planning on doing any others as of right now. If we do end up doing any other Falcon Heavy launches, then we can absolutely revisit some of these issues. But for now, there's no reason to do so. So that sounds good. We managed to recover 40K from that, and yeah, we're going to get more back too. Because keep in mind, the only thing we want that center core to do for now is put us into orbit. The rest of the vehicle is expendable, and that'll be absolutely fine. So we will expend the rest of the vehicle from there, but we're going to try to recover the center core here. We'll see if we manage to succeed that. It'll be coming back from orbital velocity. I think it will succeed, to be clear. And we're just going to want to... We've got 3 minutes to apoapsis here. We're just going to want to circularize this. This will be a good amount of delta V, of course, from that core. Okay, something along the lines of this. Looks good. 233.1 meters per second. Actually, we only have 257 meters per second right now. We've only got 8 seconds of burn time left here. So we should probably actually separate this right now. And have the lunar gateway itself get into orbit. So this has 1261 meters per second here, but we can also loot some fuel from up here if we need it. We might end up needing it, but that's fine. That's what it's here for. So let's get into position for this burn. That is going to be a fairly hefty one. That means that this is now suborbital, and that's okay. We're fine with that. Okay, so we are in position now, and let's warp this forward a bit. There's not going to be much of a warp. Okay, let's continue to warp about 50 seconds. 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. This engine is not activated. Okay, there we go. We'll activate that engine. I'm not sure what stage we're in right now, so we definitely want to do that. Now, keep in mind, we've also got propulsion up here, and we'll ditch this stage when it's out of fuel. We're not going to loot this fuel for this stage. It would be for this stage, which is absolutely fine. So we've got about 20 seconds left of burn time here, and then once this is in a stable orbit, we'll bring back our center core. We're switching to orbital mode now, and we're officially in orbit as of now. Beautiful. Continuing to burn to circularize that orbit. 100 kilometers, 110, 120, 130, 140, and that'll do. Swapping over to our core here, we're going to go to surface velocity minus. Awkward that this decoupled in this way, but whatever. It's absolutely fine. We're going to deploy our air brakes and get them ready here. What is our return trajectory looking like? Okay. So we're going to be coming down over land almost certainly here. Yes, this is definitely going to be a land landing. That's fine. We left the landing legs on here, so no problem whatsoever. We should be in physics warp right now as we get rotated on around, and we can work to recover this center core. Of course, this is not doing anything at this time, and we need to keep an eye on that electric charge. It should be enough, especially once we burn our engines. So that looks good. Interestingly, this only has the 4 and the 4 parachutes, so sure, whatever. Now, we have a lot more speed on this core. No doubt about that. We're going to warp down a little bit here. In fact, let's just warp until we hit the atmosphere, which is right here. Now, we are not exactly in the attitude that we want to be. So let's physics warp a bit here. There we go. And we have a lot more air between us and the ground, but we also have a lot more energy. In fact, I don't know that we have that much more air between us and the ground. It's not a huge amount. So we may well end up having to burn off the majority of this fuel in order to slow ourselves down enough. We'll see how viable this re-entry is. I don't know that it's super viable, though. We're still accelerating right now. But the air is very thin here. There's definitely more air between us and the ground, but we're coming in very fast and quite steeply. So that's absolutely noted. Surface is no longer increasing as much. It's going to start going down. Okay, it's going down. We are seeing heat gauges. We might have to do a re-entry burn here. I'm doing it. Engine shut down. We're keeping 5 seconds of burn. That was just to bleed off a bunch of that speed. We're still moving pretty fast here. We might have to do another slowdown burn in order to get our chutes out. We're slowing down, but we're not slowing down as quickly as I'd like to see. There is a lot of heating effects here. Continuing to burn here. We have very little fuel left. That is understood. We might not succeed this recovery. We'll find out if we have enough minus velocity. This is going to be dicey no matter what. We're slowing down a lot, though, at this point. So that's looking good. We needed to burn off that speed, though. Otherwise, we were going to have issues with heating. So heating is definitely a concern coming back from there. Let's deploy our landing gear just in case we manage to actually get our landing gear done. Chutes are available. Chutes out. Absolutely. So that's drogues out. We're slowing down more. Mains are now available. This is a really good sign. We have very little fuel left, though. We'll see how this goes. We've picked up a spin. We should be working on getting rid of that. Okay, let's see about doing that. Yeah, that spin is not great. That's for sure. Okay, chutes are beginning to deploy. Mains are going to deploy very soon, bringing us down to that 20 meter per second mark, which is about where we want to be. We know we have 110 meters per second or so to work with here. So we know that it should be reasonably fine as long as we don't burn too late. And as long as we land in a reasonably flat area and don't tip over immediately. That would be the dicey concern there. The chutes definitely make this a lot more viable, though. No doubt about that. Okay, so we're currently sitting at about 14 meters per second here. That's not bad. That is slower than expected. I like it. But this area is not the flattest in the world. That is definitely a concern. We're about 200 meters up right now. And I'm just keeping an eye here. Okay, we're going to need to slow down a lot. Okay, we landed, but that's quite the tipping. Our chutes are still there, so that'll slow down the tip, but... Ooh, nothing broke. I'm actually surprised about that. So we managed to successfully land this thing. Okay, let's recover that. We had very little fuel left, that's for sure. But that was pretty successful, all things considered. Yeah, that absolutely relied on the chutes. There's no way around it. That was not a propulsive landing of any measurable quantity. That was almost entirely chute-based. But it did the trick. It definitely did the trick. Now, as far as losing one of those boosters go, honestly, that was probably always going to happen because of the way that KSP works. So I'm not super shocked about that one. That seems reasonably fine, quite expected, to be honest. So that's okay, we get back 13k funds. I expected to see a little more than that considering the other booster was worth 40k, but that's probably because of where it landed, how much further away from the KSC. That's fine. We can definitely work with 13k. That will be a nice little discount for us. Now, the Lunar Gateway needs to head out to the moon, right? So that is going to be our next goal. And I want to put this in probably a kind of low lunar orbit because we're going to need to build a facility for mining fuel on the moon and then refueling the Lunar Gateway that way, and ideally, also the HLS. Ideally. We'll see how realistic that ends up being. But for now, let's set the moon as our target. And the ascending node here is currently 2 degrees. Okay, we're basically right at the ascending node. So let's prepare for a burn right here. That's going to be about here or so. We'll align to that. That is going to be in about 16 seconds we start that. Okay, we're not going to be turned over there in time, so this is going to be a slightly late burn. Okay. We just didn't quite have enough warning. We could move it around to the other side, but I'm not going to do that. This is probably close enough. This isn't a super low orbit, right? So it should be reasonably fine. I'm going to commence this burn about here, but this is mostly for gimbaling. Okay. There we go. And let's align ourselves right on over. It's definitely a slightly late burn, which means that our overall ascending and descending node aren't quite going to be where we expect them to be. 0.3? Yeah, that's good enough. Okay, so with that in mind, well, maybe it isn't good enough. Maybe I want this to be perfect. We're probably going to have to adjust it at the moon if we want to do that. But we can do something along the lines of this, and this should be okay. So we've got about 7 minutes until this burn. And that's lots and lots of time to get this set up. Fantastic. It's a pretty wide turn that we need to make, of course, and this has just about enough fuel to get us to the moon, so that is very convenient as well. Okay, let's warp on forward here and be ready for this burn. Yeah, we're a little bit off, but this will put us a minute away. We've got plenty of time to get there. Cool. So we're basically in position at this point. 30 seconds to go. 20. Oh, overshooting. This is a very minute burn. I'm not worried about it. Okay, 0.0. Good enough. So right around here, we're going to add a maneuver, and we're going to push this right on out to about here. Now, we want this to be in a retrograde orbit around the moon, and that is going to be somewhere around here or so. Now, what altitude do we want it to be? I kind of want a 100-kilometer altitude. This was at 114 that we targeted for our Apollo craft. So we could definitely bring that down a little bit to 100. Something around here or so. Just dialing that in a little closer, although it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect right now. Okay, this'll do. We'll align to that node, and our burn to the moon will be in about 13 minutes. Looks good. So looks like we're going to get some of our braking burn done on this stage. So we're going to have to burn very little of our station fuel. That looks good. No problem whatsoever there. I'm very happy to see it. Excellent. Now, one thing that this station does not have is RCS. Neither does the HLS, does it? Okay. Well, that's not the end of the world. Let's warp on forward here. 100x at this point, and we are preparing for our moonward bound burn. What is our thrust to weight? 0.54. Okay, it's not fantastic, but it's good enough. It'll be about a 2-minute burn, and that's not too shabby. So we're pretty aligned right now. We've got about 30 seconds, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0 mark. Off we go to the moon with our lunar gateway. Fantastic. So we're probably going to end up docking our Orion module to this port. Temporarily, the HLS will probably come in to one of these 2 ports, but these are going to be occupied later with additional modules. There's only a few modules for this. Unlike the ISS, this will go quite quickly to construct, but it'll definitely take a few flights, and these end up coming on Artemis flights, correct? Yeah, SLS launches Artemis 3, which we've already done. Artemis 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we would need to definitely do that. Okay. Well, one of those is only proposed and is not finalized. Sure. Well, off we go here. This is absolutely fine. Let's physics warp this a bit because we are off to the moon. But we've got about another minute left in this burn. Cool. So that is all looking great. No problem whatsoever. Hopefully we end up in a reasonable trajectory here. So far, it's all looking good. Coming out of the physics warp now. And keeping an eye on our actual positioning here. Just getting it in a little bit closer. That should do. 187 meters off. I like it. So next up, we're going to do a retrograde burn here. And that's going to be something like this. Now, one thing I am noticing here, and this is something that we might be concerned about and have to do a servicing mission. We're going to have to do one of those anyway. But something that I am concerned about is that I am noticing that these engines here don't appear to have any burn time. I'll run a test off camera and see if we need to keep this engine attached. If we do, we can just move some fuel down. It's not the end of the world, but I would prefer not to. I'd prefer to just ditch this decoupler and do it that way. It might be... I don't think it should be due to the engine plate. I don't think there should be a problem. In fact, let's run a test right now. I'm going to make a quick save here, and this quick save is what I'm going to load up next episode. But I just want to make sure that we have access to the fuel in this tank from these engines. If we don't, we can fix that later, but I want to know for a fact right now. So I'm going to run a simulation here, decoupling this. Okay, we've got it. It's fine. Good to know. So that is going to get reverted back to that save that I just made. And in fact, I would load it right now, but there's no point because this is the end of the episode. So we will be loading back with this still attached. I just wanted to make absolutely sure that these were okay because it was showing nothing here. But yeah, there is fuel flow here. There's no problem. We can even prove it. These engines are not activated, I don't think. Yeah, they're not. Okay, see, we've got fuel flow. No problem. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Kentogan, Ali Lee, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.